أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This week in our thought of the week we want to reflect upon another tradition that comes to us from the family of the Prophet. And in this tradition we hopefully can glean some wisdom on thinking about others within society. You know, we live in this generation of the selfie where people want to be in the picture. They take the picture of themselves, and as you see on Facebook and social media of any type, the rage obviously and the thing of this generation is to be in the picture, to worry about the self alone. And many times we don't even think and reflect upon other people within society because it's about me, myself, and I. And so in the tradition for today, we want to reflect on the teachings of the Prophet and his noble family. May God's peace and blessings be upon all of them, in which they redirect us on what should we be thinking about, on who should we be thinking about, on how we should be looking at more than ourselves, and that we should be concerned about other aspects of society. And in this tradition we hear the following statement: whoever is sympathetic with the poor and treats the people fairly is a true believer. When we want to determine whether our faith is sincere or not, whether we're Muslims by name or we're true believers in heart, we need to gauge it upon how the Prophet and his family have given us the measuring stick. We need to gauge and measure our faith based on what they have told us is a true believer. True belief does not just mean that I say that I believe in God and the Prophet and all of those things which are an obligation to accept. Day of Judgment, for example, the angels, all of these things are important. But the Prophet shows us in this tradition, the Ahlul Bayt, peace be upon them, show us in this tradition that true belief is not just in words, it's in actions. You know, actions speak louder than words. Put your money where your mouth is, as we say. And so in this tradition we see that we're told that if you want to be considered as a true believer, then you have to have two qualities, two traits. Trait number one is to be sympathetic with the poor. Now, you know, we sometimes don't interact with the poor. We don't see them, or we think we don't see them. But sometimes the poor are sitting right next to us in the mosque. Sometimes the poor are sitting right next to us on the bus when we go to school or to work. Sometimes the poor might be from amongst our own family members, but we haven't understood that. We haven't, delved into seeing how these people are living their lives. And so we have to realize that once we understand that there are poor in our midst, many times you and I can't tell by looking at them. As the Quran tells us, that sometimes you look at a person, you look at a man or a woman, and you can't tell that they're rich or poor, that they've eaten or they haven't had lunch that day or dinner that last night. But there is some way to understand of that poverty that they're at. We see in this tradition that to be sympathetic with the poor is a quality of a believer. To care about the poor is a quality of a believer, of a follower of Islam. But not only to be sympathetic, but obviously we have to realize that we need to treat them with that sympathy. We have to care for them. We have to provide for them. We have to ensure that if we are living a life of luxury and comfort and ease, that they are also living a life of ease and comfort as much as possible. Now that means that as a community we need to know one another. We need to know our neighbors, our family, our friends, our society. It's difficult to reach out and help one another many times, but maybe we can at least do this on a one-to-one basis. We can look and find those who are in difficult straits, in dire straits, in challenges of life, and help them in any way possible. As the tradition says, that also a trait of the believer is to treat people fairly. And we have to realize that the hadith says, treat people fairly. Muslim or not, we have to be people of balance, of justice, of fairness, to respect people regardless of their religious ideology, and treat them with fairness. Ultimately, yes, God will judge. We as believers have to treat humanity fairly, with that level of respect that each and every human being deserves to be given as being creations of God. And so this week, let us try to implement this one tradition within our lives, to try and help those who are less fortunate than ourselves, and to be fair to people that we encounter. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.